Bailey was just talking about the test the waters meetings, and one of the things we've tried to report on in some detail over a number of years, it's not new, is the revenues breakdown at SpaceX, right? There was a point where it went from mostly launch to mostly Starlink. What I'm seeing and hearing right now is Starlink at the top end tracking to maybe $20 billion of revenues this year, you know, if they exceed. How do you price an IPO on that data?
It's the perfect question, and thanks for having me here. First of all the numbers we've seen so far are leaked numbers or rumored numbers or through the grapevine. Until they flip that document public, we aren't really going to know what any of the numbers are. And then until they go out, as you just heard, and meet with investors and the test the waters, we're not going to know what the bank's expectations are for 2027, 2028. I presume they'll go out much further. But none of the numbers that are being bandied about in any way fundamentally correlate to $1 trillion or $1.5 trillion or a $2 trillion
right
valuation. It's all hope. It's all, do we believe the vision? It's all, do we believe that they will have limited competition, which we know there's more coming? So it's a leap of faith. And there's going to be a lot of FOMO here. And the best way to look at how to value it is to go way back to 1934, where you look at Graham and Dodd, who wrote the book on fundamental securities valuations. And they had a great comment that was applicable during the internet phase, and it's applicable now. And it's, hey, look, there are times, I'm paraphrasing, but there are times when there are new fields of endeavor, new companies in areas we've never seen before. And investors can, in fact, make a lot of money if they are involved early enough. But everybody needs to understand it is not a fundamental investment. It is a bet. It is a speculative bet. And that's what money at these valuations will be going into SpaceX. You roll a dice, right, and you say, you know, Starlink's pretty cool.
Really? You think, Lisa, this is rolling a dice situation? That's certainly not sort of going to be being discussed with banks talking to investors today.
There is no math that correlates the current revenues to $2 trillion. None. So yes, it's a bet on the future. And it's a compelling and potentially fascinating and enormous and also very uncertain future.
Lise, typically before a big IPO of a late stage startup, they would raise a big round, right? Largely to bring in the crossover investors. In this case, SpaceX merged with xAI, which changed the valuation dynamic, brought debt onto the balance sheet, etc. What was your assessment of that transaction pre-IPO?
Typical Musk, I would say. I think, again, until we know what the math looks like, it's very hard to make any sort of a sound assessment. It's clearly bundling things together, and heaven knows he's done pretty astonishing things in the past that have worked out and some that haven't. So we don't yet know. And again, I've not been on the Test the Waters meetings. Maybe they're explaining that. Maybe they're explaining this. But how the two are going to interact such that 1 and 1 equal 8.
Does this have read across to any of the others in the pipeline, Lisa? Or is this very much your view on Elon Musk and this bet on SpaceX? Because there's also a bet on xAI, and we have plenty of other AI companies potentially waiting in the wings.
So from a general sense, when you have a very large IPO, and we've never seen one like this before, but we've had Alibaba, we've had Facebook, we've had other big, we had Saudi Aramco, although kind of a very different industry. When you have a big IPO that goes well, as Alibaba did, usually a number of the companies in the wings put the foot on the gas and say, we're going to take advantage of the fact that investors are feeling good about IPOs, and you see much more activity. When you see a larger IPO that stumbles out of the gate, as Facebook did, people and companies go back into hibernation for a while. So this could be the opening of the door that certainly bankers would love to see, but we have to see how it plays.